Welcome once again. And then today we'll be talking about sports in Ghana. Over the weeks or months, I started with the pre-colonial eras and then to the colonial. And Ghana has experienced four republics since gaining independence. So I started with the First Republic, then to the Second Republic and Third Republic. And today we are in the Fourth Republic. And here I'll be talking about the politics of sports or sports politics, anyhow you deem fit. At the end of this discussion, you can put down your comments and tell me whether politics drives sports in Ghana or sports in itself is a political tool. I want you to stay tuned as we go through the Fourth Republic. Now let's look at the Fourth Republic. And here we look at the politics and then the key sports strategies that were considered. So following enormous pressure from both internal and external organizations, Rawlings set up a 258-member committee of constitutional experts to draft the 1992 Constitution. The Constitution was overwhelmingly approved through a national referendum by 92% majority of the almost 4 million Ghanaians who voted. In this light, multi-party democracy was once again restored and Rawlings became the fourth elected president for the Fourth Republic, where he represented the National Democratic Congress, herein referred to as the NDC, which he funded as replacement for the Provisional National Defense Council, which was active in the Third Republic. Though Rawlings stood for the election as a civilian, the major opposition party, the National Patriotic Party, here referred to as NPP, feared the awakening of military tendencies, given Rawlings's cabinet comprised some former military members of the PNDC era. Nonetheless, the Fourth Republic marked the beginning of an era that emphasized on free press, good governance, health, human rights, sports, and various development objectives. Since then, Ghana has experienced peaceful, I think about 8 peaceful elections, and political power has alternated between the NDC and the NPP. In recent times, Ghana has been increasingly receptive to globalization demands and neoliberal reforms. Nevertheless, it is important to point out that the approach to governance between the NDC and the NPP has been characterized by alternating waves of social democracy and liberalism. Well, enough of the politics. Now let's look at the key sports strategies adopted by the Fourth Republic. But before I move on, it's important to differentiate policy and law. Often people think they are the same. Others also use it and use it interchangeably. But in simplest forms, the law, breaking the law, is prosecutable. And policy, on the other hand, provides, it outlines what government ministry hopes to achieve by indicating the methods and then the guiding principles and all that. So it kind of like policies add depth to the laws. So let's now look at the key sports strategies adopted by the Fourth Republic. First is the National Sports Policy of 1994. I would also look at the legal instrument 1988, which was added to the Sports Act SMCD 54 of 1976, and then the last one we'll look at the 2016 Sports Act, which was recently passed. So to begin, the first National Sports Policy of 1994. In tune with the new civilian era characterized by multi-party democracy, active citizenry, freedom of expressions, and civil society participation in politics and policy discourse, the National Sports Policy of 1994 was formulated to provide clear guidelines and strategies for policy implementation in Ghana. The NSP, which is the National Sports Policy of 1994, became the first sports policy of Ghana, and it was framed with an inclusive approach indicated by the inclusion of sections concerning women's sports and then persons with disabilities, or parasports, which is called nowadays. The NSP of 1994, through the Ministry of Youth and Sports, it is now the Ministry of Youth and Sports because the youth section was added to the Ministry of Sports in 1994. So the NSP of 1994, through the Sports Ministry, spearheaded the creation of the Women Sports Association of Ghana, called WASPAG. And for those who are more associated with women's sports would know this. There was also the Association of Sports for the Disabled, which is ASD. I'm not sure if this is functioning anymore. However, this Association of Sport for the Disabled was the main precursor for the creation of the National Paralympic Committee. I have been in contact with the parasports persons in the parasports programs in Ghana, or associations in Ghana, and they are trying to revive this particular association, which is the Association of Sports for Persons with the Disabled, to provide more clarity with regards to what disabled sports means in Ghana. In any case, grassroots sports development and interministerial collaborations, which included collaborations with local government, education, and then the health ministry, were also highlighted in the NSP of 1994. Nevertheless, many describe the NSP, which is the NSP, as a football policy, which placed the Black Stars image, that's the senior football national team, as the centerpiece of sports excellence and development in Ghana. And this is captured by Okanse in his 2013 article. Activities of the Ghana Football Association dominated government business, which according to Okanse was due to the overwhelming support given to the Black Stars by politicians at the expense of other sport disciplines and associations. So that was it for the National Sports Policy of 1994. The second is the Sports Act, SMCD 54 of 1976. This is already passed and I've talked about it, but the highlighting point is the legal instrument 1988, which was added to the SMCD 1976. So in 2011, though qualified for the Olympics Games, Ghana was suspended by the International Olympic Committee ahead of the London 2012. Purposely for government interference in the operation of the Ghana Olympic Committee that undermine the principle of autonomy of the National Olympic Committees. The suspension by the IOC, that is the International Olympic Committee, caused a major policy change in Ghana. There was an immediate reaction from both Parliament and the Executive to replace the LI 1088, which reduced the autonomy of national sports associations, including the Ghana Olympic Committee. And I spoke about this LI in the Second Republic. In any case, consequently, the LI 1988 was agreed by the Executive Council of Ghana, which resulted in the national sports associations becoming autonomous and the government limiting its involvement in their decision-making process and management. In response, the IOC lifted the ban. The LI 1988 was, however, deemed a temporary measure at the time because there was a sports bill, now the Sports Act 2016, which had been on the floor of Parliament since 2000. So in brief, that was it for the LI 1988, which allowed National Sports Association the freedom to operate without government interference. Let's now look at the Sports Act 2016, and this has been the talk of the moment. people think it is important to have this Sports Act to provide more depth and meaning to sports in Ghana, especially when we have the SMCD 54 of 1976, which has military tendencies. It's important for Ghana to replace that Sports Act. That's the SMCD 54 of 1976 with the new Sports Act, which do not have military tendencies. Now let's look at it. The Sports Act 2016 was passed to meet modern trends and global standards of sport development. The policy is meant to provide development through sports, as well as promotion and management of amateur and professional sports. The Sports Act was the result of extensive debate and advocacy from civil society groups, including the national sports associations, sports for development organizations, and individual experts. The national sports associations believe that the enactment of the Sports Act 2016 will oblige the government to stay committed to their financial needs and holistic development of sports in Ghana. The sports for development organizations, on the other hand, opined that the Sports Act 2016 will legitimize their sports for all activities and also recognize them as core actors of the SDGs, that's the Sustainable Development Goals, which forms part of the Ministry of Youth and Sports Policy agenda. So for those who do not know the Sports for Development organizations, these are NGOs that use sport to achieve developmental outcomes. And I know most people do not know much about it, but you can read further what Sports for Development organizations do in Ghana. So subsequently, the Sports Act 2016 established and enforced the National Sports Authority to replace the National Sports Council. So here, the National Sports Council has been replaced by the National Sports Authority. And I spoke about the National Sports Council, which was established, I think, in the Third Republic. So here, the National Sports Authority was established as the corporate body. The word here is corporate body, with three broad objectives, and one, to promote, develop, and organize mass participation, amateur and professional sports. Two, to encourage increased participation and improved performance in sports. And then three, to encourage the private sector to contribute to the funding, development, and promotion of sports. So to meet these objectives, the policy further enumerated 14 functions to include, but not limited to, partnership and collaborations with stakeholders, promoting para sports, as well as adopting policies regarding gender equality, equal opportunities and access to sports, child protection in sports, and then safe and drugs-free sports. The sustained lobbying efforts and solidarity from various civil society organizations are indicative that the Sports Act will take account of the different but interconnected roles and that state and non-state organizations will bring to the development agenda of Ghana. So here we've had the word corporate body introduced, which I would expand further, and then the name National Sports Council changed to National Sports Authority. By the word authority, it is the belief that they're going to be autonomous, function without interference, much interference from the Ministry of Youth and Sports. In any case, the Sports Act 2016 nonetheless lacks depth with regards to detailed strategic plans and policy guidelines on how each of the three broad objectives of the National Sports Authority will be achieved in every region and district of Ghana. So it therefore called for a new and comprehensive national policy guidelines, or probably re-looking at the Sports Act once again. Furthermore, despite the Sports Act mirroring what Felipe Schmitter, that's 1974, referred to as societal corporatism, which is based on consensus and interest representation, the policy has deepened the imbalance of power relations among interest groups. So basically, in the description given to the National Sports Authority in the Sports Act 2016, representing all national sports associations as well as other stakeholders, it is functioning as what I said and Felipe Schmitter described as societal corporatism, which I will explain very well. Societal corporatism basically means that um, the corporate body represents the interest of all groups, and in our case, the national sports associations and other sports organizations. So this confirms Cohen and Pavoncello's assertion that among interest groups, there could be disparity in power relations because well-resourced interest groups will have more bargaining power to access the state mechanisms over relatively under-resourced groups. In this case, the Ghana Football Association undoubtedly is well-resourced comparatively. And that's why, as is explained over here by both Cohen and Pavoncello, as well as by Felipe Schmitter, that these groups, which are well-resourced, like the Ghana Football Association, would have some sort of power over those that are not well-resourced. So the Ghana Football Association in this regard has benefited immensely at the expense of all other interest groups at state and non-state levels. Well, so this is not just to say, but I've had the opportunity to visit regional sports offices, also interacted with sports for development organizations, as well as national sports associations and disabled sports associations as well. I've also visited numerous district sports units in Ghana, particularly with the district sports units. It is unclear how their funding is. It's unclear whether they represent the district assemblies or they represent the Ministry of Youth and Sports through the National Sports Authority and the regional sports offices. Given these complexities of sports in Ghana, one cannot say whether sports is for all. But what is clear is that sports could be equal to football in Ghana at the expense of building sports facilities in various districts, and which will go a long way to reduce the national budget for health. Well, I don't know what you think, but I would like to see your comments down there. Let's have a fruitful discussion as we all contribute to build a better Ghana, where sports will represent everybody's interest, where sport facilities were built in all districts, not just specific districts, so that mass participation, which has been emphasized in the Sports Act 2016, will be met, where everybody, both old and young, can play some sort of sports. By sports, I don't mean competitive sports, but engage in physical activity. And this will go a long way to reduce the national budget. Again, let me see your comments down there and let's have fruitful discussion. On that note, wherever you are, I want to say bye-bye in English, 안녕히 계세요 in Korea, hade in Norwegian, au revoir in French. Thank you, and in Twi, mesdames wase, and in Ga, min danyeshe, ake nyekwe mi video, nyuma jonye. Bye.